Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. And I'd like to start off this podcast with an apology. I want to apologize to all of you for not being active this month. And for some of last month as well. A lot of you may know, if you're following my YouTube channel at Brittney Bundles, that I started doing a different service, which is credit repair. With the credit repair service, I did not know how much time would go into it. I didn't know how many clients I would get. I didn't really know what it was going to look like once I actually got in, and started doing my process of repairing credit. And then once I started doing it, once I started, getting traction with it, along with my other businesses, I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit much. It was a lot, and I had to take some time to figure out how I'm going to manage all of the businesses that I have, all of the services that I'm running, the products that I'm selling. I just kind of had to go back to the basics, like we talk about a lot here on this podcast, and figure out a more efficient schedule, because I don't want to give more attention to one specific avenue and have the other avenues lacking. And so it was just it was time to reflect and readjust. But I also want to apologize to you all, because I pride myself on being consistent. I pride myself on setting the right expectations. And some of you may have been wondering, like, what's going on? Where's Brittney's podcast? Why haven't we heard from her over here? And that is honestly why, but it's not an excuse. So I wanted to come on here with an apology first and foremost. So I hope that you all can accept my apology and forgive me. Today, I want to talk a little bit about, it's all in the experience, okay? It's really important to realize that when people are doing business with you, it's more than just transactional, or it should be. It's more than them just coming to you for a value-based product. It's more than them coming to you for a service. It's really all in the experience. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more in detail. And we're also going to be talking about some ways that you can heighten the level of positive experiences and interactions between your customers and yourself. If you are interested in this podcast episode, stay tuned. Be sure to share the podcast. Sharing the podcast helps the podcast grow. It also helps to promote businesses that have been on the podcast. It helps to spread awareness regarding products and services that have sponsored the podcast. I mean, it's all good stuff, right? So go ahead and share the podcast with someone that you know, a family member, a friend. You can turn up the podcast while you're riding in the car with someone. Share it via text, social media. I mean, just get creative and share the podcast. I'll give you a moment to do that, and I'll be back in just a moment. All right. So we are back. Thank you for sharing the podcast. And we're going to get right into, it's all in the buyer's experience, right? It's all in the experience when someone is doing business with you. When I'm doing business with anyone, no matter what business I'm referring to, what thing I'm selling, what service I'm selling, it doesn't matter. I like to focus on building relationships. We've talked about that in depth on this podcast. And part of building relationships is making sure that you're shaping that experience to the best of your ability. You want to make sure that whoever is interacting with you is having the best experience as they possibly can, because people don't necessarily only remember the quality of a product or the quality of a service, but they also remember how they felt after that interaction. There have been times that I've done business with people and their products have been phenomenal, but the way that they treated me, the experience that I left with, the memory that I had from doing business with them were poor. And so it discouraged me from wanting to go back in the future. It discouraged me from telling other people about their products and services, because although I enjoyed the product, I didn't enjoy the experience. Similar story with nails, right? So on my YouTube channel, again, at Brittney Bundles, if you're not following me over there, do so, because you're going to be knowing, you're going to keep up with what's going on with me. If you wonder what's going on, where I'm at, what I'm doing, it's going to be over there on YouTube. And then also it's going to be in my websites, or on my websites and my mailing list. So you can always keep up with me by going to keepingupwithbrittney.com. I have my entire schedule. I'll be doing like a workshop next month. I have the location where I'll be at there. I just have all of this information pertaining to what I'm doing on my website. So I'm not going to leave you all hanging. If you do want to keep up with me, do it on YouTube at Brittney Bundles, and also sign up for my email mailing list over at keepingupwithbrittney.com. However, what I was going to say is I made a video. I make frequent videos going over my nail journey as well on my YouTube channel. And I do like what's on my nails, and I talk about my experience and things like that. Well, there have been times that I've gone to get my nails done and I've completely loved the design, completely loved the shape, but really hated the experience. You know, the experience wasn't friendly. The experience wasn't professional. The experience didn't leave me feeling excited to come back and sit back in the chair. So again, that's just another example to reiterate the fact that it's not just about the value that you're providing. It's not just about the quality, but it's about the overall experience. Am I saying that value and quality don't matter? No. So if anyone's thinking I'm gonna just if anyone's thinking that I meant that, that's not at all where I'm going with this message. But I am saying they're not the only things that matter. So the first thing that I want to reiterate, which I've already talked about, is repeat buyers aren't made by price nor value alone. A lot of times, okay? So I have a lot of repeat buyers. I've shown on my YouTube channel different screenshots of my analytics just to show that I have a lot of repeat buyers. And people that come to me consistently have told me that they enjoy the experience when they work with me. Now, the experience is going to be different depending on what I'm doing. So I do have customers that go on the website and they purchase, and that's pretty much it. Like, we don't speak every time they purchase. We don't have a long correspondence. We don't go back and forth in the email all the time. But the times that they do reach out, they enjoy the experience working with me. I am giving them direct answers. I'm not going to keep them hanging for months. I'm not going to ignore them. I'm going to be completely transparent, upfront, and honest with them. Let them know how the process works. Let them know how the shipping works. Just answer their questions and make sure that I'm there for them to the best of my ability. People respect that, and people like to do business with people that have that type of ethic, value, and standard when they are doing business, because it could be different. I also work differently with people that I do consultations with and mentoring with. So we have a little bit more of a consistent interaction when I'm doing mentoring. And then when I'm doing consulting, it's a different type of interaction as well versus if someone's going online and purchasing a product. But no matter what business I'm working at, I'm still keeping in mind the experience. So some of the things that you want to think about when you're looking at the experience, if you're an online only business, is how easy is your website to navigate? Do people have to go on there and do a lot of guesswork to find out maybe basic answers to basic questions? And everyone has an idea of what basic questions are, right? Some people may think that basic questions are in the FAQ section, your return policy. Some may think basic questions are, when are you offering your next sale? So you want to just make sure whatever someone's coming to the website looking for, they can easily find it. Okay. When I was doing a lot of website creation and building a lot of different websites for brands, one thing that I would make sure is that the website is simplified. You don't want an overcomplicated website. You don't want a website that is just too much is going on and you're not really able to, number one, catch attention long enough to have people even add items to their cart. There's too many things going on. That would happen early on to me as well. When I first used Shopify, I was so excited about all the different apps that was available in the App Store that I was just adding a lot of things into my website. And I realized that my website looked nice, but there was just a lot going on. And when there was a lot going on, I noticed that I wasn't getting as many people adding items to their cart. I wasn't getting as many email subscribers for my newsletter. It just wasn't a lot happening, but I would have the traffic. It's just people didn't stay there long enough, or they were clicking here, clicking there, and then clicking off. So you want to make sure that you have a website that's engaging, that's simplified, that gives enough information, but it's also not overwhelming whoever is coming to look at what you're offering. It's kind of like if you go into a store and there's just a lot going on. There's construction over here. They're putting up new railing or whatever, a new tables for their merchandise. Over here, someone spilled something, so they have a caution sign, do not step here. Over here, they have a group of workers gathered together talking. Over here, they have, it's just a lot of things happening. And you're like, wait a minute, like, what is going on? And you may just be wanting to go there and browse and really just relax and let your mind unwind and look for some products. But if it's a lot of things going on, it could really throw you out of the zone. And that's something that we have to remember with our buyers experience if you're doing e-commerce as well. When you're selling online, it's not an excuse to not show up You know, it's not an excuse to not put your best foot forward. I have a whole podcast episode that I reposted a few weeks back, and I did an interview with an entrepreneur that was stating, you know, the importance of showing up in business. And so I have a podcast over there if you want to check it out on my YouTube channel or here on this platform. It's called Showing Up. And I believe, I don't want to mispronounce her name, but she's a great entrepreneur. Her name is Valencia. And we had a great conversation. So tune into that podcast episode if you haven't gotten to already. The next thing that I want to go over is surprisingly showing up. It's so funny. I write these notes like ahead of time. And then by the time I get to talking about the topic, I end up talking and I end up hitting on points right before I actually remember, you know, look at my list and see what we're on next. So showing up. Be sure to show up for your business. It's about the entire experience. Do you know how many times people have reached out and they've asked to speak with me, or they've asked to communicate with me, and they were able to do that? You know, they were able to. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm available all the time when people ask. I'm not going to say that I'm available through the exact channel that people wish to talk all the time either, because I had to decide how I wanted to run my website when I decided I no longer wanted to be in my brick and mortar location and in my salon. So the phone calls aren't always going to work for me. They just aren't. I have kids all around. You know, my baby is here now, and she's a baby. So, you know, there's a lot of things that factor into how I'm, you know, why I'm able to be assessed easier via email or text over the phone. And I'm completely transparent with that. That's why I say setting the right expectations. People may not like everything that you say. They may not like your return policy, but people will respect the fact that you're upfront and honest. People will respect the fact that they can get an answer from you. They will respect the fact that you're being, that you're setting the right expectation. So show up in business, be present. If you are wanting someone to have a good experience, it doesn't mean that you have to be there exactly. If you have a brick and mortar location, for example, doesn't mean that you have to be in the building every single day if that's not where you need to be at that time. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to answer every single call. It doesn't mean if someone wants to work with you and none of your colleagues that you have to always be available, but always show up in business, meaning oversee what's going on with your business. Make sure that everything's running as efficiently as possible. Make sure that you or someone from your business is getting back to your customers and clients. Make sure that you're setting the right expectations. Make sure that you're present in what's going on. There are so many entrepreneurs that start businesses just for the sake of saying they have a business, but you can tell they're not really into it. They really don't know what's going on with their business. They don't check their emails regularly. They don't check their messages regularly. They literally just get in and they get out. But in order to be most efficient, in order to have your customers and clients have a memorable experience, you want to make sure that you are showing up for your business all the time. Okay. Another thing that I want to point out is when we're talking about showing up for your business, you want to make sure that you have a level of integrity, right? That means if something goes wrong, you have enough integrity to say, I apologize. You know, just like I did in the beginning of the podcast, you know, I did not show up for my podcast for a really long time. That's a long time for me. You know, it's been a few weeks that I've missed some episodes, and I told you why, but I didn't lean on that as a crutch or an excuse. I'm always someone where I am working to become better. I'm never going to say I'm perfect. No one's perfect, but I'm always working to become a better version of myself. And I'm always trying to figure out what's going to work better than it worked before, you know? So not just with myself, but with processes, with eating habits, with exercising, with parenting, anything that I'm doing, I'm always trying to evolve to a better point. So with that being said, when you're working in integrity, that takes a lot of doing what's right instead of doing what you feel like doing. Okay. And that's also going to transfer into the experience that whoever is interacting with you is going to have when you operate with them or communicate with them on a level of integrity where you're doing what you are supposed to do, regardless of what you feel like doing. There are some days I don't feel like going to the post office. There are some days I'm like, especially in the wintertime, and I'm here in Michigan, where I'm like, look, I do not feel like running down to the post, wiping off my car. You know, if I have to get someone to mow my driveway, or if I have to shovel a little bit in my driveway, I don't feel like doing all of that. And I'm talking about when I had my house here before I sold it and moved down south. Those are some things that I needed to do. I had to do before I went to the post office, but I still did it because it's the right thing to do. Sometimes I don't really feel like coming to work, you know, doing what I need to do. I don't feel like answering all my emails that I need to answer. It it's not because I don't want to talk to my customers. It's not that I don't want to interact with people, but sometimes I have a lot on my plate. I have to do other things. And so I may not feel like getting out of bed. I may not feel like eating breakfast. I may not feel like going on a walk, when I'm settled after everything is done. However, what's the right thing to do? And when you're looking at what's right to do, you want to make sure that you're looking at your end goal. That's why it's super important to know exactly where you are and where you're wanting to go. Because I was reading this book. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. At first, it was a little slow for me, but now I am really enjoying this book. And in the book, I can't remember the passage quote, line for line, but I did post it on my Facebook at Brittney Bundles. So check that out if you have some time. But it said something along the lines of, you are what you do. I believe that's what it said. Let me pull up my book and see exactly if I can find the page. I'm not going to keep you all, hanging on too long while I find the page. But anyways, it's really important to understand what you want in your life and make it into a habit. So it reads, our character basically is a composite of our habits. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny, the maximum goals. So that is really great. It also says we are what we repeatedly do. This is the passage I was looking for a minute ago. It says excellence then is not an act but a habit. So we are what we repeatedly do. In order to repeatedly do something and you actually want to do it, you do it to the best of your ability, you have to, in my opinion, it's best to know why you're doing it. So every day I like to get up and remind myself daily. That's why it's important if you're working in an office setting to have like different pictures around you that are motivating you. That's why it's important to have, even if you need to put a screensaver, something on your screensaver, someone on your screensaver, a picture of your child, whatever it is that you are working each day for, so that you keep in mind all through the day why you're doing what you're doing, because it is so important to build habits that are going to be positive in every aspect of your life. So like I was saying, you just want to make sure that you are showing up. So like I said, you just want to make sure that you're doing everything in integrity. You're operating, based on what's right and not your feelings. Trust me, I've been around people that operate just off their feelings and not off of what is right. And I'm going to tell you, their life is full of chaos. No matter what they say, their life is full of chaos in business and in personal. So you want to make sure that you're being cautious on that, or of that. The next thing that I want to talk about is capture small details. Okay. It's really important to capture small details when you are interacting with people. That's also going to heighten the experience. So some of the small details, if you're selling hair, for an example, could be making sure that your packaging is efficient to what you're sending out. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't have the best packaging all the time. If I run out of packaging supplies, I'm the entrepreneur where I'm still going to send out your package. And I have wrapped ribbons around my hair bags. I have written out different thank you cards if I ran out of different cards to put inside of my packages. But my priority is to get you what you ordered in a timely fashion, as well as provide you a great experience and great value. Your experience doesn't, or the experience doesn't only lie within your packaging, but that is something that you want to consider as well. You want to make sure that the overall package is there. And if it's not there, how can you improvise to make sure that your customers are still going to be very satisfied? The times that I do run out of business cards or run out of hair ties or bundle wraps or anything like that, and I still send out my package wrapped nicely in like some ribbons, or I write the note out, people have expressed how they appreciate it. I appreciate you sending, because at first when I started selling here and I started getting an influx of orders, I would write out to people, hey, I'm waiting on business cards, or hey, I'm waiting on this, I'm waiting on more packaging, bear with me. And sometimes people write back and say, it doesn't matter, as long as you send out the package, I'm fine with it. To the point that people started being a little bit more direct and saying, Brittney, I just want the hair. The packaging is great, but just give me the hair. So you want to keep in mind that you're looking at everything too, because I also know entrepreneurs that won't send out any products unless they have everything completely intact. And I'm not going to knock anyone's way for how they do a business, how they see business and how they do business their way. But I am going to say, pay attention to small details, even in the packaging, pay attention to small small details on your website. We touched on that a little bit. Pay attention to details when you're interacting with people, you're building relationships. Take note of what they're asking, listen to understand, not just to respond and have a conversation back, but pay attention to the small details. How long have they been a customer of yours? How are your interactions with them typically? How can you make their interaction or their experience with you more beneficial? So there's just some details that you want to make sure you're paying attention to. If someone's telling you they want a certain look, making sure that you're being cautious and aware of exactly how you're going to recommend what bundles to get based on that look. So they may send you a picture and, they may love the hairstyle, and you may be looking at the picture like, okay, well, if that was me, I would have added another bundle. It looks very sparse. You want to make sure that you can convey, your recommendation without saying anything that could be considered offensive, if that makes sense. So pay attention to the small details. And the last thing that I'm going to go over is be reliable. In order to have a great experience with your customers, and also in return have them have a great experience working with you, you have to be someone that's reliable. I like to know who I'm working with. I like to know that I can rely on you. You know what I mean? Like, I talked about this, it's kind of funny, in one of my YouTube videos, where right now I'm keeping my shorter nails because I don't have that pressure to constantly find different nail techs, or to go to one nail tech if they're busy, then I just can't get in and I have to wait even longer. I like the freedom of being able to pretty much bounce around to whoever I want to go to. But there is nothing like finding a business that is reliable. Like, once I find a company that I enjoy doing business with, that's what I'm going to go with. I used to shop at a different makeup stores for like lip glosses and eyeliners and things like that, because I don't wear a lot of makeup. Trying to still learn how to do it. I did have someone on the podcast too, that's a Mary Kay consultant, talked a little bit about that. So if you're interested, be sure to tune into that episode as well. That was with an entrepreneur by the name of Melissa. That's on my YouTube channel at Brittney Bundles, as well as here on the podcast. I have great experiences whenever I go to Ulta. Whenever I order from MAC, I have great experiences. I'm going to keep going because they're reliable. I know they're going to be there, and I enjoy the experience whenever I go to purchase. So be reliable. Make sure that you're someone that people can depend on. If you say something's going to happen, be attentive enough to make sure it does happen. If you make a mistake, be humble enough to apologize. If you don't know the answer, let people know, I don't know the answer, but I will get it to you in about 2 to 3 business days, or 24 to 48 hours, or in a few hours, whenever you can do it. Also set the right expectation. Don't have people thinking something when you can definitely clarify it and let them know exactly what to expect. So those are some tips that I have in regard to the experience. It's all in the experience when you're looking at creating a great rapport between your customers and your client base. And you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to drive those repeat buyers, because it's great to get new customers. You need new customers too, but there's nothing like the backbone of your company, customers that have been there to support you in your business while it grew to the point that it's at now. And I truly appreciate each and every one of my customers and every one of my listeners as well. I do want to thank you all for tuning into this podcast episode. If you'd like to be a guest on the Brittney Bundles podcast, please be sure to reach out to me via email. My email address is the letter B as in Brittney, talks, TALKS @yahoo.com. Please also follow me on social media. I am on YouTube at Brittney Bundles. That is Brittney, BRITTNEY Bundles, BUNDLES. I'm on Instagram at Brittney_Bundles. I'm on Facebook at Brittney Bundles, and I'm on Twitter, now known as X, under Brittney Bundles as well. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you all in the next podcast episode.